All right, this morning we have a look at the remaking of Martha Stewart and her company. We've invited two guests back who joined us last summer, just as Martha Stewart had just learned the details of her jail sentence. Dr. Audrey Gusky is a professor of marketing at Duquesne University School of Business, and Bob Altmans is president of Skutsky and Altmans Incorporated, one of Pennsylvania's largest independent public relations firms. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning, Jen.
Let's get your reaction. First of all, I'm interested in hearing from both of you. You've seen the story, and you've heard a lot of the controversy. Is this real? Is this fake? What's your gut telling you?
Well, she is the mistress of marketing. I mean, no one does it better than Martha. And the word orchestration was perfect. I mean, everything is planned and manipulated in a way. But, you know, I give her a lot of credit because she has come out of it. And regardless of whether it's true or not, her change of heart and change of lifestyle as far as Martha Stewart goes, she's still a strong business person, done extremely well. Her stock is up, even though it's dropped a little bit in the past couple of days. Her merchandise is selling strong. And I think she's achieved everything that she's wanted to.
What about you?
I think the remaking of Martha has allowed us to see that not only is she this tough, successful corporate executive, but she's fragile. She's allowed people to see her at her most vulnerable moments, which is exactly what people want to see now that we're more interested in rebuilding Martha back up than we were in tearing her down a year ago.
Well, and along with that comes an apology. There's a lot of talk about she's not going to be able to make this fly unless she says, "I'm sorry." The words have to come out of her mouth. How do both of you feel about that?
I was a big proponent of that back when her trial was coming to its conclusion. I felt at the time, and there's part of me that still feels, that that's the one element of the whole remaking Martha equation that's missing. To her credit, however, I have to say that her willingness to forego the appeal process and go serve her time in federal prison was most admirable. If you'll forgive the phrase, she took it like a man. She stood up, took her medicine, and I think a lot of people are going to be more willing to give her the benefit of the doubt in the absence of some act of contrition.
So she's shown definitely that she's a very strong business person.
Yeah, and Martha has always been able to take something that's flawed and make it perfect. And so, in a sense, that's what she's done for herself. And I agree with Bob because her, you know, I don't think she should have apologized, or maybe during the trial, but not at this point, because she didn't feel she had done anything wrong, and I think that would have brought her image down a bit. But the prison reforms and a lot of the real positive things that supposedly has come out of it, softening her a bit, the softening of Martha Stewart, I think that's been to her credit, and obviously huge, one of the biggest corporate comebacks ever.
The gentleman from Newsweek that was on in that story doubted, though, the sincerity, and it is nice to see a human side of her, but do you feel like some people might always be looking at that wondering, come on, how genuine is this?
I think then that brings us back to where we were with Martha before all of this began. I mean, the love affair, the love-hate relationship that America had with Martha was based on the fact that she was too perfect. It was too controlled and too staged. And that gets her right back to where she began, which is exactly where I think she personally and the corporation wants to be.
And a lot of psychological theories and studies have suggested that if a particular person tends to trip as they're walking into a room, then everyone else feels a lot of empathy toward them. And I think this is what's happened to her. We can now relate to her, as Bob said, because she is flawed. She has done things wrong. And so I think that has really escalated her image. Whether we believe the sincerity or not, the fact that she did put in the 5 months and did it as a soldier, as a real trooper, is a great credit to her.
Both of you doing what you do, what do you think is going on behind the scenes? Stuff that we don't see with her team of people working on her image right now.
I would love to see what's happening.
Imagine.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah,
what kind of strategies do you think are going on?
Every public act is controlled, strategized, and planned, right down to, on her first day home, walking out of her snow-covered greenhouse holding a handful of fresh lemons so that she could look at the cameras and say, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. And I think that's going to be the theme that carries us through at least the foreseeable future of Martha 2.
And you both say she is. I mean, her stock has taken a few hits, but it's doing okay.
Right. Well, the problem is when you've got a company like Martha Stewart living, and her person, her personification, is the company. Even before any of this had started, a lot of executives were suggesting, you know, what if something happens to her, she dies, she gets sick, or something bad occurs, as it did? Because when the whole image is one person, it's very, very tricky and very dangerous.
All right, when we come back, I want to talk more about that. I also want to ask you both about what you think about her new shows that are going to be coming out, because that's definitely going to feed into her revamped image as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more on the remaking of Martha Stewart right after this. This morning, we're taking a look at the remaking, the revamping, the restyling of Martha Stewart after her stint in prison. And with us this morning, we have Dr. Audrey Gusky, a professor of marketing at Duquesne University School of Business, as well as Robert Altman. He's president of Skutsky and Altman, one of Pennsylvania's largest independent public relations firms. Thanks again to both of you for coming in. It's interesting discussion. We were talking about, even though sometimes another Martha Stewart story comes on TV, everybody rolls their eyes, you still watch it. People are still interested in her.
Oh, she's huge media, obviously, and she's taking full advantage of it. People love to hate her. And in the past, I think it was more rightly justified, but now I think that people have seen a lot of the trauma that she's gone through and feel that she's become more human. I think that America is softening, and they're just anxious to see what she's going to do next.
Well, and they will be able to see a lot more of her. She's got 2 new shows on her plate right now. One, we hear she's going to take kind of a Donald Trump role in an Apprentice type of a show, and the other one, she's supposed to be redoing her living program a little bit. What do both of you hear and think about those?
Well, it's a perfect storm of television programming. You've got the success of Donald Trump and The Apprentice with reality television and Martha Stewart. My guess is that advertisers are going to be lining up to have an opportunity at this one. The remake of her living show, that one could be more questionable than the reality TV format. But I think by the time the fall rolls around, which is when I think these programs are due to air, a lot of the aftermath of the trial and her term in federal prison will be long since forgotten. And I think we will have had plenty of the Martha marketing machine under our belt to have us prepared properly for that kind of viewing.
I've read where Martha herself has said about how much her time in prison has changed her as a person.
Right.
And that she thinks herself that her company has been focused too much on cooking and kitchen and needs to be more about just what people should be doing for each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of talk translates into her new image and how it translates through the company.
Right, and I think it'll translate very well into the TV program, and I disagree with you, Bob, because I think because of who she is and how she started as being this domestic diva, that the show Living will continue to be very strong, and I think her loyal fans will come back as well as new fans. I think she'll have different twists. I'm interested to see. She never used the microwave before, and now she's got new microwave recipes from prison, so that'll be fun to watch that.
But the one part of the new Martha that I would like to see if I were her public relations advisor would be to take a page out of the lessons from other reformed prison inmates who have gone on to lead public lives, Charles Colson, Michael Milliken, and others who, as part of their second lease on life, have done a lot to give something back. And I think I've heard a little bit from the Martha Stewart camp in the first few days here after her release that she wants to do that. And I think as part of the new image of Martha, that softer side, that would be a positive addition to the Martha brand and the Martha Stewart icon.
And speaking of the brand and the marketing of Martha, how do you think all of this will filter down into her products? Kmart's big line of all of her products. What do you think will happen?
Well, the merchandise has done extremely well. It never really got hurt, and the growth is very strong there. The magazine probably took the biggest hit. Subscriptions went down, and in particular, advertising dollars went down. So I think by her visibility, maybe being on some of these TV shows, might then draw some advertisers back to the magazine, and I think that's a positive thing. But overall, I mean, she's worth billions, and her businesses, even if the stock does go down a bit, it's still, I think, so much stronger than anyone would have anticipated when she went to jail 5 months ago.
Well, and she is going to be back in a new role with her company overall. She's not going to be completely driving the car anymore, so it's probably going to be a little tough for her to sit back. I wonder if she will be able to really sit back. What do you think about that, and watch somebody else take
if history is any indicator, I doubt very much that Martha Stewart will be sitting back to do at anything. I think she's her history has been to be very much in charge of her own destiny, and the proof has been in the pudding. So I would not bet against her.
So you're both interested to be watching.
Yeah, and I have to say that I was one of those people who was never a Martha Stewart fan from day one, but yet I admire her with the courage and a lot of things she's done. And I'm looking at her in a different light, and I think a lot of people are doing that too.
The bottom line then, overall, both of you feel like she's going to be able to come out of this just fine.
Yeah.
I think she already has.
Well, it's true. That's true. Who else comes out of prison and has 2 TV deals and all these other things
lose
waiting
20 pounds,
for her?
make $500 million, and have more success than you had before the whole thing started. So
You're
I
right,
think
Martha Stewart, truly living.
It should happen to all of
Yes.
us. Okay. Thank you both very much
Thanks,
for coming
Jen.
in today. We'll be back with this.